Stealth is one of the most difficult things to get right in games. It requires a symphony of systems to work together perfectly in order for the fantasy to be achieved, and if one of those systems fails, the entire thing can break down or worse, feel unfair. It's by far one of the hardest things to get right in games. So naturally, we decided to make it the main focus of our first ever indie game. Our indie game, Outlaw's Vengeance, is trying to deliver that ever-coveted assassin fantasy, the same one that I fell in love with when playing Assassin's Creed, Dishonored, Hitman, and that's kind of what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to follow in the footsteps of my favorite mass murderers and trying to deliver a new guy that has a real issue with a blade. It's available to wishlist now if you're interested in playing a worse version of the games that I mentioned above. In this video, I want to talk about the approach that we're taking for stealth in Outlaw's Vengeance and how we're focusing on something that I don't feel like a lot of other games focus on, which is movement. And the reason why is because most games don't really value momentum as part of the stealth experience, but because movement is at the core of the gameplay loop, we have to make sure that stealth and movement are always in synchronicity with each other. So before any of that makes sense and how we're trying to achieve that makes sense, we have to understand what are the basic requirements for a stealth system. So step one is guards need something to detect, and that's where our boy Silas comes in. Silas is an ex-Noctari who fled from his home country of Arcia to find a new life in the colony of New Aurelia. And clearly, that plan went like shit, since he's now the protagonist of an assassin game. Step two is you need AI. For the majority of the development process, our guards are probably going to be more artificial than intelligent, but it's all about getting the basics down and iterating from there. And with AI, you need to select which senses guards can detect you with. Smell would be a very interesting game mechanic if maybe you had like creatures that hunt on scent and your character could put itself at risk by being detected if they smell too much, but Silas is a very clean man and our enemies are all going to be human, so we're not going to use smell as a form of perception. Taste would be an extremely strange way to detect Silas and would immediately make it an R-rated game, so we're staying the fuck away from that. And that's where we get to the two senses that most games, including ours, care about: sight and sound. Touch also is like a half sense that we're going to explore, but it's much more contextual and complicated, so we can talk about that much later. Let's focus for now on sight and sound. We're going to give our guards, whether Erudite or New Aurelian, the ability to see and hear you. And if you want to learn more about what Erudite and New Aurelian means and the difference in those cultures, make sure to join our newsletter, where you'll get weekly lore entries about the universe this game is set in. But you have these two senses for now, and at first this is a very simple way of communicating to players what they need to keep in control in order to remain undetected, and what the risks are when navigating the world. If a guard hears a strange noise in Outlaw's Vengeance, for example, he will go out of his patrol to investigate that noise. That could be a gunshot or a bomb going off, an explosion, a crate falling, or if you've entered combat. Similarly, if a guard sees something suspicious, he will leave his post and search for you. If you decide to kill a guard instead of slipping past him unseen, another guard might discover him and enter search mode. If during that search, or because Silas is close enough, they detect him, they will enter an alert state, hunch you, and try to kill you. And that leads us to step 3, where stealth becomes fun and engaging and makes the player feel powerful. Silas needs to either, by using line of sight breakers, parkour, or murder, ensure guards are not detecting him and entering combat, whether ranged or close combat. Once those rules are consistent and repeatable and players know what to expect from the guards, we've begun to add modifiers to our game. Modifiers are basically these tools or mechanisms that Silas can use to alter one of those two senses that we spoke about. You'll begin with a basic set of tools like a smoke bomb and your gear blade, and slowly start unlocking more as you progress through the 4 cities that this game is set in. We basically just created a throwable object type, give it a radius in which its effect takes place, some VFX smoke appears, and anything that is in that smoke cannot see outside or around it, and nothing outside can see into it. And this last part is a very crucial part of it. I personally hate when you have smoke tools in games that still allow you to be detected if, for example, you're standing in the smoke and a guard is looking inwards from the outside. So we've made sure to keep that consistent in Outlaws. So if you're in a smoke bomb, nothing can see inside the smoke bomb, whether it's in the smoke or outside looking in. That's kind of where we're at with the stealth at the moment. We have the basic mechanics of the AI, we have some initial tools, and we're making sure to make the parkour and the movement part of that stealth. And I want to share at this point a couple of other important pillars for this stealth game that I feel honestly very passionate about. Number one is making sure you have freedom of approach, freedom in the mission. My favorite thing about Dishonored, apart from the fact that it's one of the best games ever, is how many ways you're given to enter locations and navigate your environment. It never feels like there's only one obvious way to get from point A to point B, and so many of these ways make you feel like a stealthy, clever assassin. They always perpetuate that same fantasy. That's why we want to make sure that our game allows you to get to your target, whether human or otherwise, if you're just looking for a blueprint or a note, in as many ways as as possible. And that philosophy is not only for the big mission. I mean, the whole point of Outlaw's Vengeance is to give you these big black box missions that you can basically treat in any way you can by taking one of many multiple paths to your target. But it's not only in that big environment, that big fortress that you have to infiltrate. Any side missions, which are all going to be optional, provide benefits that help you with the main mission, can also be completed in many ways. You can either do it lethally, non-lethally, or completely ghosting it without ever touching a guard. Which leads me to my second point of what I want in this game and what is very important for me when I'm making Outlaw's Vengeance. No approach in this game needs to be rewarded or punished more than the other. If you fail at stealth and are detected, it should feel fun to run away and climb on rooftops to escape the flying bullets. If you kill guards, you should feel like a powerful, merciless assassin. But if you decide to ghost, there should be paths to exploit or tools you can use to make sure you go in and out of infiltration areas without ever being seen. Self-expression, I think, is the word that encapsulates so many of the core philosophies of this game, and it's what we want to make sure we playtest and iterate on to make sure that it's delivered properly to you guys. But essentially, something that is very important to us is that neither parkour nor stealth needs to interfere with the satisfaction of the other system. This means that, for example, the stealth kill animations that play when you kill a guard need to be different depending on what Silas is actually doing. If Silas is in the middle of like a full sprint, his stealth kill animation should be different than if he were to walk or stand behind an enemy guard and then kill him. This basically ensures that momentum is kept and respected when you're trying to keep a parkour line. How you get to a target, how you escape, how you use the rooftops and ceilings and rooms to remain undetected, that's how you overpower your enemies. That's what Silas is so good at. And this causes obviously a bunch of challenges in animation and programming, all of which we'll talk about when we flesh out the stealth and parkour system more. Whether we succeed or not is extremely dependent on playtests, money, patience, and luck. Let's talk about this more with Sophie. Sophie.
Hi.
Stealth. What does stealth mean to you, my love?
Killing guards without them seeing you and thus not entering into combat.
Contact. Well, I guess that's the same thing, yeah. You've fallen into one of the biggest misconceptions in gaming. Oh, you ignorant soul. Let me educate you while you serve us some mate. Most people think that stealth involves taking out guards. This is one of the many problems with the current state of stealth games, is that it's always and exclusively and obligatory to be elimination based, which means that the only way to succeed in a stealth level for the most part is to take out guards. But that immediately robs you of one of the fundamental pillars of stealth that makes stealth so engaging, which is the freedom of approach. In Outlaw's Vengeance, one of the key things that I'm speaking with the level designers about and making sure that it's part of like our gameplay philosophy is that if a player wants to ghost a certain mission, they can. So any main mission that has to be completed can be completed in a lethal way through stabbing and killing all the guards, but it can also be completed by either choking them out in a non-lethal way or just avoiding them entirely through the use of tools or the use of parkour. That's why stealth is less about taking out the guards and more about being unseen when moving through a restricted space. So you fucked up immediately. Guys. What the fuck?
Count on your hand, because you won't need more than that.
Okay.
How many people on Earth would make that distinction?
I know every single person watching would make that distinction.
Comment below.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way, what do you think makes good stealth?
In my experience, I love when I can feel the tension overflowing in the scene, and like the smallest mistake will get me caught, and that raises the stakes significantly.
You're such a gamer, bro. You're such a fucking
I
nerd.
played Mirage once.
So Sophie's two stealth experiences are A, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and B, Dishonored. And Dishonored you didn't even play, you just watched me play. But you still you were scared.
Dude, it was anxiety inducing.
Terrifying. I think that AC Mirage doesn't get enough credit for how good the stealth is, because I do think a lot of its design architecture is very outdated, and it was also being done with an engine that's not made for that architecture in the first place. So it kind of feels not quite there, but the stealth design and the stealth missions I think are fantastic in Mirage. One thing that Mirage added to stealth that I think all games should have and that we want to add to like one of the later levels is having an NPC that actively hunts you. So you have NPCs that are either standing guard, idle, kind of guarding with their vision cones, and then you have guards that patrol around a certain point. But then there's a third kind of guard that you can have, a roaming hunter, which is roaming around the map that you're in, actively looking for you, and when they find you, they strike you and they're incredibly difficult to kill. That's a kind of NPC that I'd love to add later on in the game, but we'll have to see if we have scope and budget for that. Another thing that you can do in stealth that I really love is using these rules in creative ways. So for example, a usual rule in stealth is you don't want guards to see you. However, because guard detection systems work in 3 stages of awareness, suspicion, and alert, if you get a guard to the suspicious state, he's programmed to basically go search the point that you were in. He'll come to where he last saw you, your last known position, and that could basically free up the entry that he was previously guarding. So you can use that and be creative with it, wanting the guards to see you so they're dragged out of their position without the use of any of the ammunition, and it allows you to go into the place that they were in. If the stealth rules of the game are consistent and understandable, you can then break them or be creative with them to find new ways to solve a problem.
In the introduction, you kind of talked about, because we're not going to call them mistakes, but rather the things about stealth in other games that you don't really like. So can you clarify a bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, so the number one thing is that momentum has to be at the core of a stealth game that focuses on parkour. A lot of stealth games will have predetermined stealth kill animation. So even if you're full sprint going towards a guard, the second you press the execution animation, it'll just trigger this 16-hour beautiful animation that cuts your momentum, that takes forever, that risks you getting detected because while you're killing this guard, the patrols are still going around, and it completely kills your sense of momentum.
Damn, that's a really good point. What is an example?
Frankly, Dishonored is like that. It's not too bad because it still makes you feel like you're in the flow. It'll stop and do the kill animation, but it just feels good and it's quite quick, so it's fine. I'd say a lot of games that have stealth as a feature more than the focus have this a lot. Call of Duty games, any open world RPG game. For most games, stealth is just like a thing that you have to check off the box, and you're not really caring about it too much. You have guards who can detect you, you can sneak up behind them, you press a button, you kill them. And that's kind of as far as stealth goes. And they don't keep momentum and movement in mind. And that's something that Outlaws really wants to focus on. And motion matching is going to help us. The mocap that we did is going to help us. So that if you're walking towards a target or standing still behind them, you'll trigger one of these like static stealth kills. But if you're sprinting and in your sprint you kill a target, it'll do a kind of like running kill and then continue running afterwards to make sure that you feel like that momentum is being kept.
So you talked about freedom of approach being one of the pillars of stealth. What are the other ones?
I mean, it's up for debate. There's different schools of thought. But I'd say freedom of approach is one, fail recovery, and clear and consistent modifications to the rules. I think those would be the three, and then I would personally add movement as the other pillar. I view non-lethality in stealth games kind of like following the traffic rules in Grand Theft Auto, if that makes sense. When you first play GTA, you don't obey the traffic laws, you run over pedestrians, you do crazy flips with your car, but once you play the game 100 times and you're sitting there bored, you go, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to obey the traffic laws. And that's kind of how I treat stealth games. The first time I play a stealth game, I want to see what the assassinations feel like. I want to feel like an assassin who just kills everyone. But then when I replay it, you want to challenge yourself and say, can I beat this game without killing anyone except the target? And the game has to facilitate that. I hate when games don't facilitate that, or even worse, facilitate it sometimes.
Okay, wait, we'll come back to the pillars of stealth, but I have a question.
Okay.
Is there going to be a permadeath mode?
Well, the problem, yes, but only if we have the scope for it. The way we want to make the game is to make sure you can play the fucking game and it's finished, and then I want to add new game plus, permadeath, and these challenge modes. But if our money doesn't get there or it takes too long, permadeath is one of the most obvious things to cut. If it's going to sacrifice quality, fuck permadeath. Let's make the core game good.
But let's dream for a second. What are the different modes that you would want to have in your game?
So I'm going to manifest this. This is not good marketing, by the way, because I'm setting expectations I cannot meet. These are the three like dream challenge modes that I want to insert in the game post-launch. Number one is permadeath. So if you beat the game without dying once, you get a special outfit, and if you die, the save is completely erased and you have to start again. Number two is the stealth reaper. So like you have to complete a level killing every single guard you can kill, and if you do that, you'll get the Noctari outfit.
Wow, you always do that in Dishonored. You kill everyone and then you complete the task.
Yes.
It lowers my anxiety because I know at some point no one can come attack.
Well, that's why it's such an easy, alluring stealth tactic, because first of all, the best animations and the most satisfying animations in a game are always the assassinations. Like the non-lethal options are always lesser than and more boring. Number two, a good stealth tactic when you're playing a stealth game is to create like safe spaces. So when you're infiltrating a house, if you kill all the guards on the first floor, you know that as you go to the second floor, if something goes wrong, you go down to the first floor and it's now your safe space. So you're basically slowly carving out rooms of safety as you push through the house, and you can revert back to that. When you're non-lethal, nowhere's fucking safe. So whether you move forward or back, you're constantly in danger. And if the level design is not thought out to not give you any sort of safe space, it can be very like anxiety inducing, and that can be a conscious choice in the level design, or it can be a mistake. It depends.
Okay, so permadeath, stealth reaper,
and then ghosting. I want to basically challenge players to ghost, and the reward is like a sick outfit. I'd like to have 3 outfits, one for each of the challenge modes in like post-launch, so that if you're wearing it, it means you were able to beat the game with these stipulations. But most modders are just going to get the outfits immediately, but it's fine.
Oh, they can just code their way to them?
They can just do whatever. They can add like weird fucking mods to the game the second it's out. Once the game is out, it's not our game.
Right.
People are going to add weird shit to the game.
Why? Like what?
Like make Medea naked in all the scenes.
No way.
Te lo juro.
Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah. I want to test you on the pillars to see if you can discern what they mean. So we've talked about freedom of approach, which is basically you need to be able to have a million different routes to your target and through a level. Number 2 is fail recovery. What does fail recovery mean?
Failed recovery?
Fail recovery.
Oh, okay. No, this is an easy one. If you lose the game, you're not restarting at a very far away point. The last checkpoint is quite recent, so you're not frustrated.
The confidence with which you said it is remarkable.
Is it not even a close
The
guess?
accuracy with which you said it is not. It's a good guess, I will say that.
Okay.
It's a very good guess, and that has nothing to do with our game, but for example, Souls-like games, which is basically games inspired by Dark Souls, have that issue where the way they work is you have checkpoints that you have to manually create, like bonfires or the equivalent in the other games. And if you lose like fucking 10 minutes later, you'll respawn there and have to fight through everything again. And some people hate that, some people love it. But that doesn't happen as much in our game because it's a pretty small game, so like it won't feel that way anyways. Fail recovery in the context of stealth refers more to what happens when you're detected. A little history lesson. The early stealth games had a very, very frustrating aspect about it, which was that if you were detected, the mission would automatically fail and you would have to reload the checkpoint. So you felt incredibly punished for being detected, which made you A, not want to experiment, B, not want to fucking play the game, and 3, feeling like if you were detected in an unfair way, that the game was bad. And if you were detected in a fair way, you could still lie to yourself and be like, that was bullshit. That's something that's pretty outdated in games, except fucking Star Wars Outlaws. They have automatic failure in stealth, which sucks. It's 2025 and they shouldn't be doing that. So fail recovery is essentially when you are detected, what is the loop or the gameplay actions you take to break that detection? So you want guards to chase you, but you want the tools, whether it's speed or technique, in order to break line of sight, to lose the guards, and the guards return to their post. And that's what we have in Outlaws that works very well, which is basically the guards chase you, but they can't do parkour, and you're faster. So if you start doing parkour, you can fuck off and break line of sight.
So in my experience from like seeing you play or playing myself, once the guards detect you, like they don't leave you alone. But in the right amount. Like it's quite thrilling. Like you know that they're not going to make it easy for you.
Especially the guards with guns. Because guns in our game are very similar to how Hitman approaches guns, which is that it's not fun to fucking deal with someone who's detected you who has a gun. This isn't a shooter game. It's not a third-person shooter. It's not a Wild West shooter. It's a stealth game. So even though you can deal with the sword NPCs quite well because you have sword combat and you can do duels, if people start shooting at you, you're probably just going to fucking die, even if you have a gun yourself. So that's something that we want to balance it and make it challenging, but also if people are saying, hey, I hate this, we have to change it.
I think that's an interesting topic, like guns and stealth. How are they compatible?
They're usually not. It's only compatible if the game is designed as a third-person shooter, and then it's just like stealth-inspired, like Ghost Recon, for example. So what a lot of games do is set their games in time periods where guns cannot shoot very often. They have to reload, and it gives players like reload time. Or, for example, in Clair Obscur or Lies of P that I'm playing now, they have to reload the gun so you can fire one bullet, and then there's like a 10-second reload time. So it feels more like a bow equivalent, and it's much easier to balance bow-type objects in games. And also, one thing that Red Dead Redemption does is they add bullet trails so you can see where the bullet flies. When you're developing NPCs that shoot at you, you have to code a percentage of those bullets to miss, to not feel like they have perfect accuracy. And it's very thrilling when you get shot at and you see a bullet trail like past Silas just like really close and then eventually hit you. So it's very nice to see that bullet trail and like have it remain. Let me know what you think so far. Let me know what you would like to see from the stealth in terms of any improvements that we can make, any tools that you would like to see. And we recently made a video talking about how we're trying to blend in stealth with movement and how we have to go to a mocap studio to achieve that. So if you want to watch that video, you can click on it now.